Stuart.
Okay. It's been more than 2 months now since the Inspector General report on the IRS targeting. But the FBI still hasn't contacted a single targeted group. The American Center for Law and Justice telling us today that not one of the conservative organizations it's representing has heard from the FBI. Let's just say targeted Tea Partier Tom Zawistowski is losing his patience. And Fox News contributor Monica Crowley says the rest of the media is more than happy to ignore this too. Tom, to you first, please. You have not been contacted at all by the FBI, even though you were targeted, correct?
That's correct. Not only have I not been targeted, but to my knowledge, no one in Ohio has been contacted, and none of the people being represented, none of the groups being represented by the ACLJ have been contacted.
Have you gone to them? Have you tried to contact them and say, hey, what's up with this investigation?
Well, not since the apology came out. We've kind of left that to Congress and to Jay Sekulow and the ACLJ. But we were aware that they were looking for information, and we certainly have made ourselves available. And we're just wondering what the holdup is.
How long has it been?
Well, for me, it's been since June 2010. And, I think this is a trend, Stuart. This is what's really concerning to me. When you look at the testimony that Nita Olson from the Tax Advisory Service gave about a week and a half ago, where her job is to make sure what happened to the conservative groups never happened. And she testifies in front of Congress and says she has no problem with what happened, and she just is concerned that the IRS was underfunded. You wonder who's doing their job and who's not. When Mr. Mueller testified in front of Congress and said he didn't know how many agents were in the investigation or who they were or where it stood, how serious are they taking this? This is very concerning to me, but it should be very concerning to all Americans.
Monica Crowley, why has, the establishment media has not covered this. The fact that the FBI has not contacted these targeted groups, that's a news story. Now, why haven't they covered it?
And completely disgraceful, by the way. This IRS scandal is the most dangerous scandal in U.S. history, Stuart, and here's why. In the past, when administrations have used the IRS in abuse of power to target political enemies, it's always been elites to elites. In other words, President Lyndon Johnson going after an enemy, or Richard Nixon talking about using the IRS to go after a political enemy. In this case, the IRS was used for political purposes to target entire swaths of society, Tom's group being one of them. And nobody in American history, no regular American has been subjected to this kind of delay, harassment, and unconstitutionally intrusive questioning by the IRS as Tom's group has and hundreds of other Tea Party and conservative and religious groups have. And yet the media will not cover this for one simple reason, because they don't want the trail to go back to Barack Obama or to his White House or anybody close to him, and so they're doing everything they can to protect him. The fact that the FBI, the director, didn't know as recently as a couple of weeks ago who was in charge of this investigation, how many investigators the FBI had on this case, and now not a single Tea Party group has been contacted. That in itself is a story, and yet crickets from the mainstream media.
Tom, do you think that the machinery of government was used against people like you and your group to influence the vote in last year's election? I know that's a leading question, but do you feel that way?
Well, absolutely, Stuart. I mean, that's why I responded the way I did when I got my letter on January 26th of 2012. I said, this is not about my tax status. This is opposition research. They wanted to know how strong was the Ohio Liberty Coalition? What kind of money did we have? How many members? Who were they? What did we know? It was definitely intended to influence the election, and I think that it did for the most part. And that's what brings the entire election of 2012 under suspicion, because as we're seeing with the NSA information that's now out and the Verizon phone listening and the leaking of donor lists and things like that, there is a lot more to this, Stuart, than we've seen so far.
Let's see if we get to it in August, the month when we go to the beach. Tom Zawistowski and Monica Crowley, both of you, thank you very much indeed. Are more people